What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Orlando Martel and this is Martel Dynamics. So, today we're going to read chapter 3 of Rickson Gracie's book, Breathe. Today's chapter is called Predators and Prey. If I have to summarize this chapter in a single sentence, it would be that you either become the predator or the prey. But if you don't want to be the predator, then you will definitely become the prey. With that in mind, the chapter begins by Rickson saying that his father, Helio Gracie, taught him that if he wanted to be a great instructor, he not only had to teach his students technical aspects of jiu-jitsu, but also the psychological aspects. In addition to fighting, students learned how to better sense danger, the difference between patience and passivity, and how losing is not the same thing as being defeated. Because, as I understood it, is this psychological factor, as we've been talking in the last chapters, of never quitting, of no matter what happens to you, don't quit. Never stop wanting to be better. Rickson says that when I put physical pressure on students, I see their true personalities because they immediately show me things that they are able to hide when they are not on the mat. Look, my experience with jiu-jitsu is very, very limited, but when you are used to being comfortable and not being in that uncomfortable state, like when you are on middle school or high school or just someone new on a space or a group of people, those parts of your life make you uncomfortable, so you are constantly trying to presume or trying to prove yourself or trying to hide yourself. But whenever someone, people, a group, or some circumstance puts pressure on you, your true self begins to reveal itself. And I think it has happened to all of us. And that's what Rickson is saying, that when someone's on top of you practicing jiu-jitsu, your personality will come out one way or another. He says that I don't make them examine just how they fight, but also how they feel when they fight. Here's a picture of Rickson training in Rio, Brazil. Rickson says that by 17, he was a full jiu-jitsu instructor and apparently made more money than a bank manager. How is that true? I have no idea. He begins to explain a series of experiences that he had in the sea, because he says that the ocean was a great normalizer for me. Either the ocean gave him energy when he was tired or took his energies when he was too excited about anything or something. He begins to explain that there came to Brazil this professional surfer at the time named Byron Amona, and that he cheated on some surfing competition. Surfing was some new sport in Brazil at the time. I'm thinking these are the 60s or the 70s. Long story short, Rickson basically beat the out of this guy in front of everybody in Brazil because he was cheating, and I think he cheated his brother in a surfing competition. It was around that time drugs were basically all around the world, here in America, in Brazil, everywhere. Drugs were just, becoming more mainstream. People were experimenting more with hallucinogens and whatnot. Rickson says that around this time, he began to realize that his father and uncle were, as he said, frozen in time. He says that everything from their relationships with the women in their lives to their views on procreation seemed out of touch. How the was I supposed to have sex only for procreation and never masturbate? You have to realize that sex in Brazil is much freer and more natural than the United States. The weather is hot and humid. People wear very few clothes and and we are impulsive, sensual people who like to be in close contact with each other. So basically, everyone's sweaty, everyone is in their prime. I guess the young people, according to Rickson, people were having a lot of sex. I guess good for them. In that same time, drugs were plentiful in Rio, as I guess in the whole world. But one good and curious thing is that Rickson says that no matter how many experiences he had with drugs and how many he tested and whatever, he always had a strong base in family and with his father and in his life, because no matter what drug he tried, no matter what he did, no matter how much he partied, the next day he had to train jiu-jitsu, he had to teach jiu-jitsu. The next day he had to work, because he was his own man now. No matter how irresponsible he acted the previous day, the next day he had to be a man. A big thing in this chapter is that he says that some of his friends didn't have that type of support system to make them strong, and they had begun to slip. He says that one day he saw a friend of his that was good looking, and all of a sudden he said to him, Rickson saw him all messed up, and Rickson said to him, "Fuck, man, what happened to your front teeth? Where's your motorcycle?" And the friend used to tell him, "I don't know, man. The last thing I remember is the night we were doing lines with those beautiful girls at the club." When you read a line like that, when someone tells you something like that, they are not in a good path. Let's leave it like that. Because when you are 25 years old and you're still acting like you're 17, brother, when are you going to become a man? That's a question I think Rickson is still asking, and he's grateful that he had a support system, because Rickson, being the man that he was, I think a big lesson here is that you need a big support system in your life, especially when you're young, because if he didn't have that support system, nothing would be as it is today. Probably this book would have never been written. Another example he gives is that he had this friend 5 years younger than him, Marcelo Bering. He was very good in jiu-jitsu. They trained together. They almost became very good friends. But like all the young people, as Rickson did, he started to try drugs. As Rickson says, and I quote him, "It was suspected that he was killed in favela in a drug deal gone wrong." That's what most of our parents tell us, that you can do whatever you want when you're older, but with that power comes responsibility, right? As the stereotypical saying says, which is 100% true. You can do drugs all you want, but drugs ain't gonna give you the money, ain't gonna give you stability, ain't gonna give you a family, ain't gonna give you love, no matter how good they make you feel. You know what I mean? So talking about the surfing sport, just surfing, that wasn't even Brazil at the time, Rickson talks about an anecdote that he once went to, just catch some waves. And Rickson's leash broke with a wave. The current was very strong, so basically the ocean pulled him into the ocean some miles very deep in. Rickson explains that he connected this experience with his father because he had to remain calm or he would have died. And he says that no matter how many vicious dogs he fight, how many fights he lost, no matter what happened to him at that point, till that point in his life, nothing was more scary than that. That you have to swim, I think it's perpendicular to the current, so you don't swim against the current, but kind of flow with it until you get out of the current, and then you can swim inland. You know what I mean? He says that 2 hours later he stumbled onto dry land. Winning fights, riding wild horses, or taming vicious dogs, none of it compared to this. The swim was by far the most terrifying experience of my life. And it's curious to me because my father once had an experience like that in Puerto Rico, and he says the same thing. Up to this date, he likes the ocean and everything, but he says that, hey, I respect the ocean because you can't control nature. It's just one of those things that will kill you if you don't respect it. So the chapter ends with Rickson explaining an experience that he had with hoes. Naturally, Rickson was becoming better and better in jiu-jitsu, and there was one time when he was training with hoes, the one brother that he praised, respected, and just, I guess, loved the most. He was training with him one day, and he beat him. He beat the one brother that was the hero for him, that was the champion of the family. And in a heartbreaking explanation, at least for me, he says that when they were fighting in tournaments together and they got to the point where it was only them two, Rickson, instead of fighting his older brother Holz, he just walked up to him and raised his hands as if he was giving up the fight to Holz. They both knew that Rickson had become a better fighter, but to the rest of the world, Holz was still the champion of the family. And that is that's the respect he had for his brother Holz. Maybe not all of us have that brother that we can relate to and just respect, but we definitely have a man like that in our lives. Maybe it's a father, maybe it's a brother, maybe it's just a very good friend. For Rickson to open up like that and say like and just, you know, being truthful, just swallowing his pride, because if he was another man, he would say, "Yo, I beat Joe. Now I'm the champion of the family." You know, he didn't say that. I mean, you know what I mean? That's just the deep respect, sheer respect that he had for his brother. That was it, guys, for this chapter of Rickson Gracie's biography. With nothing else to say, see you on the next chapter. Bye.